I am talking today with Steve Sutton, the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs here at UC Berkeley. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Thanks for sitting down with me today.
Of course.
So you and I both worked at universities in Florida.
Yes.
And we both started our careers in residence life.
Right.
Can you start with a quick synopsis of your career path from residence life to the position you hold now and how you got to UC?
I had the pleasure of growing up in Ohio, going to school at Ohio State, getting my master's degree at Ohio State as well, and I wanted to get out of Ohio. So I moved to California in 1987 and was a resident director here at UC Berkeley. Then we called it Residential Life Coordinators. And worked here at Berkeley for 5 years and moved to Florida, where I worked at the University of Miami as the Director of Student Activities. And then I moved to Houston, Texas, where we spent 14 years, and I worked in a variety of areas of student affairs. There I was a Director of a Student Union, I was an Assistant, an Associate, and Dean of Students, and eventually a Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. Part of my career goal, my larger career goal, was to work in as many different areas of student affairs as I could, because I eventually wanted to be a Chief Student Affairs Officer.
So do you recommend that generally as a career trajectory, to try a little bit of everything in your field?
I guess it depends on one's own selected career path. I mean, in some ways this just kind of develops, you know, as your different opportunities present themselves to you. Some people actually come up in the ranks through student affairs in one specific area because they want to be subject matter experts in student conduct or public service or a career center, what have you. But it worked for me.
So clearly you feel like that breadth of experience prepared you to be the Vice Chancellor.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it's important to me to know enough about the operations in student affairs that I can talk in an informed way with whether it's donors or advocating at the Chancellor's level for different areas that are within student affairs. That's something that's really important for me, to be able to be that advocate for areas within the division.
So Steve, what defining moments have occurred in your life or your career, and how have they shaped you?
Well, probably the first one that comes to mind is being a first-generation college student myself. I was the oldest of 3 kids, the first person in my family to go to college, first person in my extended family to go to college. Yeah, and that really defined me in terms of going from a very small town in southern Ohio to this big state university where I was completely overwhelmed. I remember getting a D on my first chemistry test in college, even though I had done really well in high school, and unfortunately I had to find a way to make ends meet financially while I was in college because there wasn't much support from home. But I feel grateful about that now because I think that really helped define me, helps give me an appreciation for some of the challenges our own students go through in terms of being first-generation college students, trying to figure out how to cover the cost of education. I worked, my first job in college was I was a lifeguard at the rec center. Then I became an RA, and that's partly what got me into this profession. I didn't become an RA because I necessarily wanted I mean, I wanted to help people, but I wasn't focused on just trying to be an RA. I was more focused on how I could pay for school, and then ended up changing my life anyway.
That's often how people find out about student affairs, is they end up in
Right.
those kind of roles and they realize this is a career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you look back, what core beliefs have guided your choices and your actions?
That's a great question. Well, advocacy is probably the first thing that comes to mind. I think it's really important for all folks in student affairs, even beyond student affairs, working in an academic setting, to really focus on advocacy. That's something that I try to do, not just for students, but also for staff as well. It's something that really, I think, motivates me, particularly when I see or hear of a student that's having a challenge, whatever that challenge might be: food security, housing security issues, or the fact that they just can't get an answer from a particular office on campus. So those things have really been a big part of my motivation, my actions as a student affairs professional. Professional development was also something that's really important to me. I had people take an early interest in my professional development when I was here in 1987 as a residential life coordinator, and I realized very early on in my career the benefit of being involved on campus as well as beyond campus, whether it's serving on a committee, doing a conference presentation, just really trying to focus on your own professional development. So that's something that I've really been focused on and advocated for within the Division of Student Affairs. And even in the very near future, one of the things I'm going to be talking about with the division is some resources that we're going to be dedicating specifically to professional development, so folks can try to get some of those additional skills, competencies, etc., that they're looking for, so that they can then manage their career as effectively as possible.
That's really nice. I know you've studied student development and student development philosophy. What's your philosophy of staff development? And you're talking about combining advocacy and professional development, those two core beliefs,
sure.
And how you support your staff's development.
I think when you think about development in general, development means growth, right? And growth comes through change. And we're talking about positive change. We're not just talking about change, because change can also be negative too. But when we're talking about really development, we're talking about positive change in the right direction. And I think in terms of professional development, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to try things that you may not want to do. You may need to, if somebody asks you to give a speech, and you're like, I don't like giving speeches. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to dig deep and learn a new skill and maybe get better. Or if you don't know technology, for example, and you want to get better technology, this is something that you could speak to personally. You decide, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to figure out a way to learn this new skill and try to stretch myself. Now, it's important to have people around you that will support you in that endeavor, so that you're not out there doing it on your own, because you're going to fail at times. You need that support so you can pick yourself up and keep trying. But I think in terms of professional development growth, trying to get out of that comfort zone and do something a little bit differently than you've done before. And also trying to collaborate. I mean, collaborate is something that's collaboration is something that's really important to me. I think that I've been successful in my career because I've been willing to collaborate with other people, find people who maybe know a little bit about something I don't know about. This is a great way, like when you do a conference presentation, maybe somebody, working with somebody who has a particular area of expertise that you don't have, that you can then join with them to then talk about the great things that are happening here at Berkeley.
So that sounds like you have an approach to development that combines both formal and informal learning.
Sure.
More taking classes, courses, more in the formal realm,
right.
And then some informal things that you've talked about, stretch assignments and collaborative opportunities.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big way to try to, and that's what our students do, right? That's how they learn here at Berkeley. All the learning isn't in the classroom. It's beyond the classroom. We talk a lot about the co-curricular environment, co-curricular experiences, and in fact, many times when I talk to alums about what was the thing that was most memorable about Berkeley, many times they don't talk about what they did in the classroom. They talk about the things they did outside the classroom, the leadership opportunities they had, or maybe being an RA, or even doing research with a faculty member, which of course is more of an academic in its sense. And one of the things we're talking a lot about with at the Chancellor's level and the Provost level is this concept of discovery experiences. We want students to be able to come to Berkeley and try to discover something about themselves that maybe they don't know about, something that's going to kind of stretch them a little bit, both inside and outside the classroom.
So if we take that and think about it in terms of staff, what do you do and what can we all do to help staff realize all these great opportunities that exist for them every day for this informal learning and growth?
Well, there's so much that the campus has to offer. I mean, all the communities of practice that we have. Something I've participated a lot in the last few years is the BSA mentor program. Taking on a mentor, talking to somebody who is willing to assist you and help you in that growth. A lot of times in student affairs, we have a vacancy. We'd look to find somebody who would be willing to take on some interim duties. Oftentimes, it's not somebody that's necessarily within that organization, but maybe across the organization, somebody who has the capacity or the leadership capacity or maybe the interest to try to stretch themselves a little bit. That's a great way to try to learn new things. I've had throughout my career many opportunities to be an interim for lengths of time, and I've learned a tremendous amount through that. I've kind of jumped into this environment. I remember one time when I was in several institutions ago, when I was serving in the Dean of Students office, and my boss came to me and said, hey, we're losing our director of financial aid. We need somebody to go into that organization and help correct some things from a business services, business processes perspective. And so I went into that environment. I came out of that experience having learned a tremendous amount about financial aid, which has been very useful for me in this role and even prior to this role.
So those are some great examples. I'm going to shift to a little bit different tack here and ask you, what does it mean to you to be a leader?
Yeah, that's a great question, because leadership, I consider myself a student of leadership, meaning that I like reading about different leadership styles. I like reading about different situations where leaders have emerged, watching movies where they display leadership. And so I think there are many aspects to leadership. I really believe we all have the capacity to be a leader in a given situation, depending on what the situation is. Boiling it down maybe to a very simple definition is just making a positive influence, having a positive effect on an environment, on a community of people, is really about being a leader. I did something many, many years ago where I had a chance to join an outward bound group. This was when I was living in Florida, going into the Florida Keys with other higher education leaders to spend 3 or 4 days out there with not much other than a canoe and some boards and some packed food, and we basically went around the Everglades. It was really interesting to me just to see how different people would step up at different times depending on the situation. We did a little bit of a ropes course. We were on land to start the experience, and then we went out into the water. And it was just fascinating to see how people can really step forward depending on what the situation is, right? I mean, and there are so many different aspects of leadership in terms of sometimes, and I even see this with just committees on campus, right? There's people that really make sure that we're being inclusive of everybody in the room. There's leaders that really can do a great job at organizing the work that needs to be done. There's people that are very strategic and they can look like in a chess game 3 or 4 moves down the road in that experience. And so there's a lot of different things, I think, that are wrapped up into leadership. And part of it, I think, for each one of us is to try not to be all things as a leader. I think that's one of the challenges that we have sometimes, is that we try to do too much instead of really just playing to the skills that we have, really focusing on the thing that we can do best.
So do you have a way that you describe your leadership style?
Well, I talked earlier about collaboration. That's something that's really important to me, because I know that I don't have all the answers and that I need to be able to get the right people in the room to work with me on resolving a solution, coming to a solution for a problem. I think Berkeley is a place where very few problems can be solved by one person. We're very focused on process here, and because of that, it takes several folks to be able to work together to try to come to a resolution. So collaboration is certainly one of those aspects. I like to be proactive. I've found through my experience, and maybe this is, goes back to my days as a student activities director, you have to anticipate that something's going to go wrong. And so you better have a plan B, and in many cases a plan C. So, collaboration, having a plan B, and then also too, one of the things that's a core value of Berkeley is diversity, right? I mean, we have a lot, and that's something that we have to be able to use that lens as we look at situations. And oftentimes I talk with my team about using various lenses when you're trying to solve problems. Obviously, using a diversity lens, sometimes we use the organizational lens in terms of how is this going to impact people in the organization. We have to use a financial lens, just given the situations that we're in right now as a campus. I think also too, there's other lenses we can use based on what your level of expertise might be in a particular area.
So I know that you are newly official in this role,
Yeah.
so you're not ready for your career to be over anytime soon.
No, I hope not.
But if you look ahead and you think about when your career is wrapping up, what would you want to be remembered for? What would you want your legacy to be?
Wow, that's a great question. Thinking about my legacy 2 months into this new role, well, I think that one of the things that I'm going to be talking a lot about in the near future is just how we can reimagine the student experience. And I think we have an opportunity with a new campus strategic plan and certainly with clear leadership in our Chancellor and our Provost to be able to really think about how can we focus on reimagining our student experience. And so I really think that there's a lot that we can do in terms of improving the student experience, in terms of how students navigate the campus. One of the things we heard loudly and clearly from students last year in the fireside chats that the Chancellor hosted was that sometimes students, or even often, have challenges in terms of not understanding how they can navigate university. So it's not until they become a junior or senior that they really know all the resources that they have available to them to be able to address their issues. And so I want to try to do what we can in student affairs to help correct that.
So that happens on the staff side too, that often it takes staff a long time of working here before they realize all the resources that this campus has to offer. So if you were to sit down with a new young staff member today, what advice would you give to them as they start their career here?
You know, I get the opportunity to interview lots of staff members when they come through, partly because I just want to be able to have a connection with them. I'm not the decision-making person. I'm not the hiring manager for that role, but I try to get involved as much as I can. I try to talk to staff when I'm out at large events we have in the division or even outside the division. And again, going back to the BSA program, the mentoring program, this is something I've had a chance to have conversations with staff about. And one of the things I like to tell staff members is that we're hiring you for your expertise. We don't want to just have you come in and plug into our system. We want you to bring your energy, your fresh ideas, your competencies, your expertise to help make a difference here. And we're going to embrace that. We really try to embrace that. But it's not easy, right? Because you come into a community where you're brand new, you don't know lots of people, and so you're not quite sure where you fit in. And so one way I think to break down those barriers, those walls, is to try to get out and meet as many people as you possibly can. And try to get involved in some of these communities of practice. Try to look at opportunities for involvement. The NOW conference, for example, is a great way to try to meet lots of people in a very short period of time. Maybe if we do things in the division, like we have coffee with colleagues, or once a month we bring everybody in the division together to where they can come and just have a free cup of coffee, maybe a pastry over on Crossroads. That's a great opportunity for staff members to get to meet somebody new. And that's when I meet lots of staff members that I don't know in the division, because we're quite large, so there's a lot of people that I don't know. But I think those are just a couple examples of how of what I might say to a staff member as they're starting here.
So Steve, tell me what you're most grateful for.
Wow, there's a lot of discussion these days about gratitude, right? And you can read lots about gratitude, and one of the things that I've been trying to do in the last couple of years is just trying to be more mindful of the things that I'm grateful for. There's so many things I could go on and on about. I mean, first and foremost, I have to point to just my family. Very grateful that I've got a partner I've been with for 25 years. We've got two kids. One just graduated from UC Santa Cruz. Trying to figure out what she wants to do next. We've got a son that we're taking to college actually next Thursday. He'll go to college as a freshman, and so very much grateful for just those relationships and those folks, my family. Professionally, I would say just very grateful that I'm being given this opportunity to step into this role. I think Berkeley is a fantastic university, like many people who work here and have worked here for many, many years. I've been here 14 years in my career. To be here, who knows how much longer, but certainly longer. I'm just grateful for the chance to be able to lead a division of people that are very committed to their work, very much student advocates, people who come to work each and every day and work long hours and work very hard for the betterment of our population. And not just students, we have staff members that support other staff members, whether it's business operations or what have you. So just really grateful for just the community we have here at Berkeley, that even though we know that every single day isn't perfect and we've got challenges, whether it be financial challenges or other challenges, I think for the most part, we are doing really important work here, and we all should be grateful for that.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with our Wisdom Cafe audience?
Gosh, that's a good question too. That's the one that really caught me off guard the most, was what do you want to say? Because I always ask that question at the end of an interview, right? What else do you want to tell us? I just say that there's just so many opportunities here at Berkeley. There's so many ways to get involved, so many interesting people. I mean, each and every day, and this is another thing I think I'm grateful for, is that I just find people that just fascinate me in terms of the things that they do, not only here at work, but just outside their work. And also, too, I just encourage folks to try to get to know our students. I know that in the role that I have, one of the things that I'm really trying to redouble my efforts in terms of doing is to try to meet more students. Because I think it's so easy for me to go from meeting to meeting and not meet as many students. So I wanted to spend more time on Sprout Plaza, talking to students, just finding out ways that I can better support them. in terms of their educational pursuits. And if others did that, then I think that would really help our community, which is one of our Chancellor's primary goals, is creating a closer community.
Well, thanks so much for talking with me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.